to reverse or not? That is the question. Oh my gosh. And this question does keep coming up all the time. Do you have to do reversals? Short answer, no. In fact, a lot of us don't. I don't, Mary doesn't, Corby doesn't, a lot of us. But also think that in addition to that, one of the big reasons is folks keep going, well, then I have to learn another 78 meanings. It's 156 meanings, but you don't have to do that. There's other ways of doing reversals. We're going to look at all that today and chit chat, have a little open discussion here. Everybody's ideas on, how they do reversals, um, how to not do reversals. Mm. So to kick things off, let me just give you, my little spiel on reversals. I've never used reversals, and I have nothing against it. So my theory is, if it works for you, there's some people that they swear by it and it works great for them, and that's fine. And if you don't want to do reversals, you don't have to. So that's my spiel about doing reversals, not doing reversals. um why do I not do reversals? Well, when I was first learning tarot, I just, I saw it in all the books and things like that, and I just found it to be very contrived. um I mean, where did they even come from? Nobody really knows. It seems like the consensus is that it's, a more recent thing. Okay. I always had this picture in my head that somebody was dealing out their spread, and they shuffled wrong, and they got a reversal, and they went, oh, well, that's interesting. And they looked at the image upside down, and they got something in their head. They got a different idea about the card when it was upside down. And I was like, oh, I'm going to start doing that. There's a lot of different things. For instance, playing cards, obvious thing. You shuffle playing cards, it doesn't matter which direction it is, it's going to be the same thing. They're designed that way, right? Automatic, upright. um they're also artwork. And I'm hearing a lot of noise in the background. Is that coming from
Oh, it's me. It's
I
me. Sorry.
yeah,
Let me
can you
mute.
mute your mic, Charlotte? Because
Yes, sorry.
mute your mic for a moment here, because wow, that was distracting. I'm sorry. Okay, back to what we were talking about. Artwork, to me, they're, little pieces of artwork. And even artwork that is abstract, there's a right way and a wrong way to hang it on your wall. I mean, just from that, I want the cards to be, right side up. um but then there's just the contrivance of it all. The way I shuffle my cards, whether I'm rifling or I'm doing the overhand shuffling, I never get reversals. So in order to get reversals, I have to cut the deck into three piles, turn a pile upside down, put it back together, reshuffle. Uh, one, and I find that to be really contrived. And another thing that goes along with that is that when you use tarot apps or tarot programs on desktop, you go into the controls and it'll ask you, do you want no reversals, 25% reversals, 10% reversals, 30%, 50% reverse? Huh? I mean, it just shows you how contrived it is. From my point of view, the only way to that I feel that you can um, honestly get reversals is to use the chaos method. So you put a spread cloth out, you push all your cards out, spread them all around on the spread cloth, move them all around, pull them back in to it, to a deck, and now you're going to have some reversals. And that's a little less contrived to me. um way back 20 years ago when we first started the guild, we had a discussion about this, and the conclusion we came to was the best way for it to not be so contrived is to put two decks together. One deck is for reversals, the other deck is for uprights. And we did that a couple of different ways. One way was the white borders on the Waite-Smith deck. We would paint those or color those a different color, like black. And so the black bordered ones, even though they were still upright, were considered the reversal, and the regular white bordered cards were considered the uprights. Another way we did it was taking Los Scarpeo's Universal Weight, Universal Tarot, I think it's called. And then there's another deck where it's have you guys seen that? The deck where you see the images from behind. And because they are Los Scarpeo, they're all the same size. So we would put those two decks together, and the ones from behind were reversals, and the ones with the regular images in the front were uprights. So there's a bunch of different ideas about, you know, how you could do reversals, and kind of why I feel, you know, I I just never liked it. Always thought it didn't make sense to me because, you know, I see each card as a spectrum of meaning. And when I lay out a spread, I'm looking at the surrounding cards. I'm thinking of the question that was asked, and I'm looking and I'm getting an intuitive hit where on that spectrum of meaning the card is coming from, as opposed to a physical, it's upside down or it's not. And by the way, that's very black and white, and not as, you know, I like the spectrum because there's all that gray area in there, you know.
And Dax, before we continue, and I know
Uh-huh.
Sharona has another point of view on reversals.
Right.
I do see that Nicholas does have his hand raised, so he probably has a question. So before we get to Sharona, who will give us the pro reversal reasons, Nicholas, what's going on?
Yeah, okay. Dax, I agree with the chaos method. I used it, and
Oh, good.
in my opinion, when this deck is designed to have a chaos shuffling method, then it will work for this deck. That's my opinion. If the deck is designed to have this shuffling and to have the reversals, then the meanings are going to be accurate. That's my opinion. But
Sounds good.
yeah, I found interesting your other method of two decks. You know, it made me an impression. I want to ask you, what were the results when mixing two decks? For example, how
Oh
were you
gosh,
reading?
it worked really well. In fact, we had one reader in the original Tarot Guild group, which at the time the Tarot Guild was a meetup on meetup.com in San Diego, California. We had about 400 members just in San Diego. And I remember one of the readers, she had, her deck was three decks. She always had three decks together. She wasn't doing the upright reverse thing that I was discussing, you know, how to do reversals, but she just had, you know, basically three of every card then. So, you know, she had this thick deck and she would shuffle it, you know, and sometimes in her readings, you know, she would get multiple of the same card. And that made it really fascinating too. So, you know, there's a lot of cool little tricks you can try out. You know, when we use the Los Scarpeo decks, those two decks together, and some of the folks did the color. I like the Los Scarpeo method because I didn't have to sit there and color the borders on a whole deck, all 78 cards. You know, I'm too lazy for that. You know, but some of the folks did it, and they said it worked great. You know, the cards are always upright. You get the same image, you get the same symbols. You know, it's and then you just know where on the, you know, the spectrum you are basically.
Yeah, that's an
doing it
interesting
that
point of
way.
view. And
Yeah.
now, recently, about 2 weeks ago, I came upon a deck that was, mostly designed for shadow work, and
Mhm.
it was very nice, very, very good work, and it had, as if it was all reversed. But when it was originally designed, for example, she reversed the meanings when designing it, and she said that this was a method for shadow work. I don't know.
Hmm.
What's your opinion on this?
I don't know. There are one or two decks out there or so that are actually designed with the reversals built in. They literally have a different image on if the card is this way, and if you flip it around, it has a different image. And that I like a lot better, a lot less contrived in my mind. Also though, rewinding back a little bit and talking about doing reversals, I do think that people overcomplicate it, that a lot of times it can be as simple as I know some folks have the upright mean the general gist or energy of the card is coming in, and if it's reversed, it's fading out. Another way I really like, actually, if you're using reversals, is just looking at the actual image, and it works best with Waite-Smith. Three of Swords. Okay, so you have that card, and you might be getting, like, say, grief or something like that. But if it's reverse, what happens? The swords fall out of the heart, and so the grief is waning. You could be an example of a meaning for it. And all, so I kind of like that too. I like when it's not just whether the card is upside down or not. If it is upside down, what's going on in the image? I kind of like that.
Hey, it's clever. It's clever. It's very clever.
The Fool card, he loses his knapsack and he literally falls into the sun. If you look at the Waite-Smith upside down, it kind of looks like he would fall right into the sun. I kind of like that too as well. But I do like the whole idea of there being a delay in the energy, or a block of the energy, or just the energy waning, something like that, where you're still keeping the essence and the energy of the card and not really changing the meaning. It's just whether it's reversed or not is telling you whether the energy is coming in or going out, or maybe it's reversed, so it's delayed in some way. I like that, as that way you don't have to learn 78 other meanings. And when we're talking about keywords, each card, there's a lot of keywords, and so in some people's system, you got like 5 upright meanings and 5 reverse meanings, and oh my god, I don't think my head could keep all of that in.
And
But who wants to go next? Gary, you, or
no, actually, I was going to see what Sharona decides,
Yeah,
because she
tell
is
us
the
how you
person who
do
reads
reversals.
reversals, and I thought it'd be interesting to get her take.
Well, I have always read reversals because back in the days when I learned to read tarot, which was back in the days when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, they always did reversals. Now,
Mhm.
reversals have been around since these 2 books. So it's not something that's new. Like in Waite's book, he has reversals. And in this one, which was my Bible
yeah.
from when I was in high school,
Sharona,
there's
can I
reverse.
clarify? Can I clarify when I say newer? What I'm, those books are dating back 100 years or more. What I'm talking about is the entire history of tarot, going back,
No, I
several
understand.
hundred years.
Well, I think they
it's
did do
relatively
reverse.
new within the last 100 years.
I don't think so. I'll differ with you on that. I think they all, because I think what happened was when the Oracle cards came in, that's when people started to kind of get away from reversals. But I think part of it was that people overcomplicated how to reread a reversal. You don't have to learn 156 meanings versus 78.
Mm,
And when I teach, I always teach reversals, because if you read reversals, and I'll show you a little bit how to do it, it will take your readings to a whole new level. If you're reading with someone, it really changes the playing field. But what I want to say is people overcomplicate it. I have always been taught to read a reversal as a block in energy. So or as the opposite. So if you have a card, which is a definite yes card, like an ace card, and its sun is reversed, then it would mean there's some kind of blockage from you achieving that. And it really gives you a good opportunity when you're reading it. You could say to your client, this card means this when it's upright. And for some reason, I see it upside down. Is there a blockage there around this energy? And by doing that, you're going to really kind of open up your reading and get more sense around it. And yes, I'm someone, when I shuffle, let me just grab a deck. If I just took a deck ordinarily, there would be absolutely no reversals, because I'm a really good shuffler. So you can, when you get a new deck, you can do the thing that you do where you mush them all around and then put them back together. But one trick that I have found when I do, before I do a reading, I actually physically will take a clump of cards and turn them around, so that you can get a balance. Or the other thing that you can do when you're setting your deck, the first time you use it and you're going to start using reversals, is you can just kind of do one card down, make two piles, and you do one of them can be right side up, one can be down, because I think you really need to start, if you're going to read them, start so 50% of the cards are reversed. But reversals do not mean a whole different meaning. You can just take the reading that you have learned and you have incorporated in your heart and just even say, I don't know why this is showing upside down. Is there kind of blockage there? I mean, it also can, it's a good way to open up. I like to bring in past lives and ancestral work. And I go, this is reverse. Anything in your family, why that might seem reverse. So it gives you an excellent tool to work with your client. The only time that I don't usually do it is if I'm doing quick readings, like if I'm on the radio, because you're not talking to your client. But, just think of the reversals as an opportunity to talk further with your clients.
And
So that's it.
Sharona, I have to tell you that I do agree with you in the way that you read it. I started, I don't know, about 20, 30 years ago, 30, 80, 90, 91, whatever that turns out to be. First learning tarot. And of course, you have your Bible. Mine was 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack, which I still reference to today. It's a fantastic book.
That's my Bible too. Yeah.
And
But
in that book, she talks about the reversals. And of course, I started reading reversals and learning the different definitions. And of course, it was like learning a brand new, a second encyclopedia, right? And then I quickly came around just through trial and error and just talking to other people to having the reversals be a blockage of the energy of what the upright meaning of the card is.
Mhm.
And that tended to work a lot better for me. Now, having said that, I still do that, I'd say 90% of the time. Where I am right now is to the point where if you know the deck, meaning you know the history, you know the structure, you know the symbology, you know the Kabbalah, the astrology, the alchemy, the Egyptology, and whatever else you're going to study to give you a better basis for being the tarot reader, then 99% of the time, the entire spread will inform you, and you really don't need the reversals. It's sort of like the Star Trek concept of tarot, like IDIC, right? Infinite diversity and infinite
You don't need the
combinations.
cards. Once you get good at this, you don't even need the
Yeah.
cards.
Exactly.
They're like they're the ruby slippers that, you know, Dorothy really
Yeah.
could fly.
So for me, it's, and this is going to sound strange coming from me, when I'm reading and a card comes upside down, which happens more time because I'm a horrible shuffler. I don't know which way is up, which way is down. I put the deck back in the cards or in the sack in a different way every time I use it. So it's totally random on the cards that I get. But it all comes down to how the reading is, and if it feels strongly to me based on the other cards. Is there a blockage? Do I honestly feel this? And sometimes when you're like, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense, you just ask.
Yeah.
And Dax, I just want to touch on one point about the keywords, because to Sharona's point, everybody overcomplicates
Right.
everything, right? It's not just
Everything.
reversals. People, when they first start reading tarot, believe they've got to rote learn keywords. Okay. And therefore they have to learn 10 or 20 keywords for every single card in the deck, all 78 cards. And then if they're going to read reversals, they have to do 10 for each of the reversals of the 78 cards. That's ridiculous. It may sound more complicated to sit there and study and learn about the structure of the deck, learn about the symbols of the deck and what they mean, and really get a personal attachment to the cards that way. But in the long run, keywords are there as training wheels, in my opinion. They're there to get you started. And once the training wheels come off, once you have a good understanding of the cards, the spreads, the symbols, the structure, you don't need keywords. They're there to get you started as training wheels.
Gary, did you see the meme I did last week where I think it was, oh gosh, was it the 8 of Cups? I think. And I said, it takes years and years of study to learn tarot. And then I said something along the lines of, and your friend pulls one card. Oh yeah, dump him. Showing it's like, it's not that hard, folks. One thing I wanted to say about using reversals, you know, if you're going to use reversals is, and you guys can tell me what you think. Do you guys reset your deck? So what I mean by that is, turn all the cards one way again.
No.
And start over with your process.
Piles and you flip one. That's what I usually do.
Because this is what I'm thinking.
And you go like this,
right?
Each times.
Yeah, and
so that you're like going, you are like actually, you know, turning the pieces, and then.
Oh yeah, I like doing it that way. I like the twisty.
And then
I wanted to ask, but because one thing that I thought of was that, well, okay, I do the shuffle and I do some way to get reversals, and okay, the 6 of Wands is reversed, and it's like, well, if I never reset the deck, then the 6 of Wands is always reversed, you know. So
well, not necessarily. Again, with me, right? I'm horrible with this stuff, so I don't have a specific way I put the deck back into the box or into the bag. So it's a crapshoot whether I pick it up upright or upside down.
That makes sense. Right?
So I never know. The 6 of Wands may come upside down in one, and then I may put the deck back totally differently. Or in the shuffle, when I do a bridge shuffle and a whatever this kind of shuffle is called, I don't know, right?
The hand over hand.
The hand over hand shuffle. The cards may flip, and Sharona, occasionally I'll cut the deck, and I may twist it, I may not. It's just what happens at the time.
Oh,
I mean, what you can do is think of them as jumper cards.
That's cards, I was just gonna say,
reversals like a jumper card.
My new deck is plastic, you know, and it's very slippery. And sometimes the card will flip and I'll get a reversal, and I still I don't well, you could just turn it upright, but what I'm saying is that it's rare. But when I do get a reversal, I do actually use it, and I do use the blocked energy as the method. So when I'm with a client, I go, oh, looks like there's a blockage on this one, just like Sharona said. It's rare that it happens, but it's actually happening to me more often since I got this deck, a couple months ago. It's PVC material. It's so slippery.
Oh, okay.
But it'll never wear out. I love it, Gary.
You can read in the tub in the shower.
Laminated cards. I just don't know if I can go there.
So good. Well, it's not laminated. It's the material.
Yeah, I know. I'm just a very tactile person. Touch is important to me, and if I get that sleekness on it's like a little waxy buildup or
these
something.
Aren't sleek because it's got the gold foil on it, and it's got it has a great feel. You would love these.
Okay. Which deck is that?
Really it's a gold foil deck. I actually, gold foil. Aha. There's the URL, folks.
Okay,
thetarotclub.com.
I do want 10%. I want 10% as the lead into that link posting right there.
What I like about these is they shuffle really, really well. The rifling, oh my God, rifling is so wonderful. And they are a little slippery, but it also makes it easier to deal. And because of the material they're made out of, these aren't gonna wear like paper cards. They're cardstock. They're gonna last a lot longer. And it's Wade Smith. It's just cuter looking.
Oh wow, those are really gorgeous.
They are gorgeous. Yeah. I love it. I wanted something gorgeous and cheap, and they were cheap.
Well, you could have called me.
Amazon.
I'm gorgeous and cheap.
There we go. Let me turn this thing off. Okay. Shameless plug of my gold foil deck. What about Gary and Nick? You guys have a way you guys do shuffling? Charlotte, do you have a way of using reversals or have a question?
I tend to be a little bit anal about my deck, so I always keep all my cards upright. And so rather instead of, the only way I could fix that is like you said, is just to put them on the table,
chaos
mash them
method.
around,
Yeah.
and then pick them up again. And that goes back to your question, do you have to do that every time then? Because otherwise you end up with the same cards.
That's what I was talking about.
Every time.
I think, personally, even not using reversals, I am anal that way, and I like to reset my deck every once in a while. I literally put it in complete order, like it comes from the manufacturer, and then shuffle it. I do that every once in a while, just for fun. But I think if I was doing reversals, I think I would try to reset the deck now and again, but man, that's a lot, to sit there and put every card upright. I think it's better to just redo the chaos method, and some cards that were upright won't be now, and vice versa. If you're going to do reversals, I don't know. I think that's
I agree. I mean, you could not have to reset.
And I like Sharona's method of twisting and in different places on the, keeping the deck together, but you can actually just, and then shuffle really good, overhand and rifling and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, the whole thing is how you set it up with the deck. I mean, like you're the boss of the cards. So if you say, I don't want to read reversals, let your deck know it. It's your deck, and go with it.
Okay, Sharona, I'm going to take just a little pushback on that. It's saying that a tarot deck is yours is saying like a cat is yours.
Well, no,
it will mess with you. It will mess with you.
You belong to your cat, okay? First of all, cats aren't you. Your cat owns you.
Yes, that's my point.
I mean, you buy the deck. I mean, like people actually edge them, they cut them, they do
Oh, so
anything
many things.
they
Yeah.
want with them. And it is if you have a receipt for it and you bought it, I own it. You can do whatever you want with
It's
it.
your
It's like, it is like, you are a doctor. It's your stethoscope. If you're if you're a cop, it's your firearm. If you're a
Mhm.
plumber, it's your wrench. It is yours, and you have to, because you were the magic behind it. I mean,
Mm.
I think probably I can read cards without even having the cards. If you
Yeah.
So we are the magic is in us. I mean, you could even, like, they might even say, you could look at a layout and say, which one of you guys are reversed? And you'll get a voice in your head saying, oh, that one should be reversed.
Mm.
But to tell you a funny story, because, like, I'm really OCD, and one day I did a reading for someone and all the cards are upside down. So
Oh
I
my
thought,
gosh.
I need to maybe change seats with you.
I was going to ask
or
about that too,
turn 'em over.
Sharona.
But here's the thing. I mentioned that to the person I was reading for, and they go, my whole life is upside down right now.
Oh, how perfect, right?
So, they're kind of spooky that way. And to do like a plug for my show I did earlier, I had Sasha Graham. In her book, she makes a big to deal about reversals. And she actually has the reversals, and she says, when you get a reversal, you need to write the reversal, ask, and then she'll have a question. So, think of it, to write a reversal, what do I have to do?
Mhm.
And so anyhow,
Oh yeah.
I'm done.
And I think a lot of it has to do with just being consistent. And it's like programming your subconscious and programming the deck. If you're going to do reversals, say so. And if you're going to do them, and say how you're going to do them, so that the cards respond, I think. I wanted to mention real quick, because you guys brought it up about the not needing cards thing. You guys remember Rose Full Horse, right? On the Power of Three show we had on the network. And,
yeah, right.
And I think it was her. I was talking to her one day about the show or something like that, and it just came up, and she said, well, Dax, you don't need the tarot deck anymore. And that was like really profound to me. I was like, oh. And after she said that, sure enough, I started, like, I would look at a question or look at a situation, and I would start seeing cards in my head, not even using a deck, and it really came in handy when I was, like, out at the club or whatever, don't have a deck with me, and someone says, can you read my cards? Well, I don't have my deck, but what's the question? And then cards would just pop in my head, and I'm like, oh, this is too cool. And it's all because of Rose. She got me on
You
that.
don't need the ruby slippers.
Yes. So we don't need the deck anymore. So we no longer need to do any more workshops. We're done.
No. I mean, like, I loved also.
That's it. We're shutting down the Tarot Guild. We don't need tarot.
Thank you very much, folks. Don't forget to tip your waitress. Have a good evening.
On the way out. Yeah.
This is the gate. We have to have our cards, because they start out. It's a gateway drug to more cards.
It's a gateway. It is.
In my case, it was a gateway drug to further down the occult and arcane.
Exactly. Yeah. And also to meet really cool people. Like, aren't we cool?
Oh,
we are the cool kids at school. We went from being the nerds to the cool people.
I wanted to ask if anybody, I know, Gary, you said you used to use reversals a lot. Now you don't as much. And does anybody have any other ways that they used to interpret reversals? Maybe you don't use it anymore, but anything else come to mind?
Well, yeah, when I first started, I was very OCD or anal or whatever. And, the reversal, I had to learn the keywords and I had to learn the definitions. And I was very rote learning by the book kind of thing. And that got tiresome for me after a while. which is when I went to what Sharona said, which is, why am I driving myself crazy? This is just simply an energy blockage. Now, before I flipped, I tested that, right? I would say, well, let's see what happens in this reading. And I would read for myself, or I would read for a friend just to test out my theories and see what would happen. And most of the time, that was aligned with the reading, and it did work. Which, Sharona, I think goes to your point, whatever you tell your deck, or whatever you, more importantly, whatever you tell yourself, right, that you're going to do, well, then it happens or manifests, or whatever word you want to use. So if you're saying to yourself and you're thinking to yourself, geez, I got to learn 156 keywords in order to read reversals, then there's going to be no way you can read reversals a different way. If you say to yourself, reversals is simply a blockage of energy, what does this person have to do to free that energy and turn that card upright to get the benefits or the detriments, depending on the card and the spread of that card? Then you're going to be able to read it that way. All right. So it was a natural, I don't want to say natural progression. It just happened where it was, this is the way, by the book. This has to happen. God, this is tiring. Let me try this. This is interesting. Okay, this seems to be working. Let me see if I put this in my professional readings when I'm reading for clients, if I'm going to be off base, or if it's going to work. And sure enough, it worked. And that's where I am today. You know, it's sort of like when I first started reading and everything had to be spreads, right? It had to be a spread, whether I was doing a 3-card reading, whether I was doing the Celtic Cross, whether I was doing the 3 Rays, which was one of the first spreads I learned. It was a fantastic spread. Everything had to be the spread, and it had to have its meaning. And then I said, well, what would happen if I just threw 3 cards and just went off of my feelings? And that exploded, and now I could read that way. It's all about what you are training yourself to look at.
Gary, you just hit on the next workshop, you know, to use a spread or not. That is the question.
I'll get right on that. Yes.
Ways to use spreads, ways to not use spreads. And, you know,
I'll tell you a great spread that kind of ties in with the thing where you're going about mushing the cards around the table.
Oh, okay.
You can take the cards, mush them around on the table face up, and then pick from your intuition which cards you want to pull out.
That's a great idea. Oh,
yeah. I mean, but that's like, you don't have to, they don't even have to be that you're looking at the back, because look at what your attention is drawing you to.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So do them upright. But
and you just push it around and then go.
And
I like that one. I like that one.
Use a spread cloth so that your cards don't get dirty. You know, these won't, because they're PVC material.
No, I actually use a spread cloth because of and this is going to a totally different area, but it's actually important if you're going to be reading professionally.
Yeah.
I use a spread cloth for the image, for the picture it creates, either on camera or for the person sitting next to me. That's why I'm wearing this shirt, right? Because prior to coming on, I was wearing this dingy green t-shirt. Yeah. Well, the tarot guy,
he was naked, actually.
Don't tell people that, Dax.
Stuff like that. I brought my own
that was a bad visual.
The tarot guy has an image that everything that goes out there under the banner has to look for. It's part of the presentation.
Yeah.
And so it's an important thing. So the spread cloth is not to keep the decks clean, because I've read on sitting down in a dirty cabin with sawdust all over the place.
But that doesn't mean that you guys watching in the archive, you know, watching the replay of this, that doesn't mean that you can't use it to keep your cards clean.
That's
just like washing your hands before you handle your deck. If you've got a cardstock deck, you know, those get grimy. You know, this I can put in water and soap and actually clean. That's another thing that's cool about this deck.
Oh,
it's like it's a commercial for this deck, and it's like, you know, I don't get anything out of this.
I'm not going to wash. I'm with Sharona there. I'm not going to put soap and water on my deck. That's no.
I want, but these you can actually wash because they're PVC material. But I wanted to say, if any of you listening to the replay, if you guys actually go out and do the 2-deck thing, and you know, however you end up doing it, like maybe coloring the borders and using two decks, one's reversals, one's not, but they're both upright. Let us know how that works out. You know, we would love to hear, you know, I mean, God, the last time, like I said, was in San Diego. That is like 20 years ago that we did that, and you know, had good results. But I'd like to see what, you know, how it works for some other people that that try that. You know, give it a try. You know. Oh, and if anybody else has
You
any
have
other,
really big hands though to do 2 decks. My gosh.
I know. But you know, if you do the chaos method, it's a lot easier. You just pull them together, you know. Or you cut the deck,
I
cut
have
the
some
deck in half and shuffle it, and then put it back together.
I have a special deck, you know, designed for this chaos spread. It's
Mhm.
mostly symbolic. If you use a symbolic deck, for example, it's a fewer cards, so you can easily reset them. And if you
Oh,
decide to, yeah, if you think about it, if it's a smaller deck, mostly symbolic,
mhm.
as companion to tarot rotating, it's easier. You use the
Yeah,
symbolic
that's
deck,
another thing.
do
You get slightly smaller decks, and
you
it's
do the shuffle
easier to
method, and
handle.
one way is either you close your eyes and you know you pick the card to
Mhm.
not see if it's or not. And the other one is after you shuffle, you put them in a pile so you still draw and you have the reversals. And
Mm.
afterwards, you still shuffle and in this chaos and put them together. And you have this only for reverse mix. But this is designed to have to read for reversals. Mostly I do it with this deck. With a normal
Mhm.
tarot deck, mostly I use that deck. I
I
will
just
try your method.
I just thought of something else. Another reason why we tried that experiment with the two decks is one of the other contrivances. I keep coming back to that we didn't like about reversals is, okay, so you shuffle the deck so you get a certain amount of reversals. So you know, so like the I don't know, the four of swords is reversed. Well, now if you're doing additional spreads and things like that, you know, you're not, you don't have the upright version of it in play. But doing the two deck method that way, you always have an upright and a reversed of all 78 cards. And so therefore you can, the upright version can still show up, or the reversed one. And if you do readings the way I do, where you're like not necessarily reshuffling the deck, but you might just like maybe cut it or something, you know, there's the possibility of that energy, that meaning of the card to come up by using the two deck method, you know. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there because I had forgotten earlier that was another
That's
reason.
more complicated
It
though
was
than
really
just
helpful.
resetting your
Thank you.
cards.
Yeah,
Can
thank you. It really
can
helped me.
I add one
Yeah,
one
to me,
one
I think
thing?
it's much easier and better. But go ahead, Charlotte.
Well, so I firmly believe that our energy is tied to whatever deck we're using. And so um I mean and it has to be because you know, Dax, look at the how many, well, and Sharona too, how many times when you're doing a show, the synchronicity between your readings is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I mean, almost every single reading.
Yeah, like me
And
and Mary.
so
Oh,
and
lately.
so you're gonna get the reading you're meant to get, whether you're using reversals or not. If you're using all upright cards, the message is going to come through,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's, you know, it'll come through differently than like a reversal going, hey, blah, 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 blah. It'll come through in the cards that, you know, that we've shuffled into plays,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with the question in our mind as we shuffle our deck and then spread them on the and then lay them out in our spread. So I mean that's just, but
That
I
makes a
mean
lot of sense.
I'm a super novice and I might just be talking out my hat, but that's how it's always felt to me, because that's why we can use so many different decks as we get in tune with each
Mhm.
deck, and we know which deck is going to work best for each reading, and um and we just go from there, depending on or relying on our energy with the deck, the universe, etc.
Yeah, I mean
Right.
that's the big takeaway for me, is that there's no such thing as right or wrong answers here. You know, that's why we have 5,000 different decks. You know, this deck's going to appeal to this person and this other deck's going to appeal to this person and not the other, you know. I mean, and it's the same thing with reversals. For some people they work fantastic, for other people they don't need them, you know, and so we give you permission. The tarot gods say you can do whatever the heck you want. Well, this was a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun. And I hope y'all come back and hang out with us for more workshops about, you know, different things. And we'll be having a whole bunch of them coming up over the summer.
I think Nicholas wanted to say something just at the same time I did. So Nicholas,
Oh yeah, got anything more, Nick, before we go?
I'm sorry if I stepped on, if I talked over you, my apologies. But
Yeah, it's normal. It's normal. Okay, it happens.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to stop the recording there, guys.